Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Lectio Sancti Evangelii secundum Matteum.
Gloria tibi, Domine.
When Jesus went into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter said in reply, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. And so I say to you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Verbum Domini.
Nos tibi Christe.
First of all, a warm welcome to Father Daniel from the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal and the group of young people traveling with him from New Mexico. We celebrate today two key figures in the life of the Church, Saints Peter and St. Paul. They were very different from one another, and they came from different backgrounds, and yet what they had in common was a great love for Christ and for his Church, so much so that they laid down their lives for their faith. They're both being martyred in Rome. St. Peter was crucified upside down and was buried in their cemetery, which was on Vatican Hill. St. Peter's Basilica would later be built over his tomb. St. Paul was beheaded and was also buried in the nearest cemetery. Later, again, St. Paul, the Basilica of St. Paul outside the wall would be built over his tomb. In the second reading today from St. Paul's second letter to Timothy, he knew that his martyrdom was approaching. And he said, "I have competed well. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. From now on, the crown of righteousness awaits me, which the Lord, the just judge, will award to me on that day, and not only me, but to all who have longed for his appearance." Isn't that something that we should all aspire to say at the end of our lives? I have competed well, or as it's often translated, I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race, and I've kept the faith. And we can look briefly at each of these. First, he said, I've fought the good fight, or I've competed well. We know that we are in a battle, and it's not easy to live our faith. We have to struggle against our own weaknesses. We have to struggle against temptation to sin. To struggle against anything or anyone that would lead us away from God. St. Paul did not quit in fighting the good fight. Next, he says, I've finished the race. In a race, there's a sense of urgency to finish. We don't slowly walk a race. We don't sit comfortably in a race. We strive our best to finish with urgency. We don't live, again, it's not about comfort. Pope Benedict XVI once said in an address to German pilgrims that Christ did not promise an easy life. Those who desire comforts have dialed the wrong number. Rather, he shows us the way to great things, to the good, towards an authentic human life. Again, we know rest we will find in heaven, but now we're called to live the faith with urgency, to strive to become saints, not to live a life of comfort and ease. And thirdly, in today's second reading, St. Paul says, I've kept the faith. He remained faithful to the end. and he kept the faith by passing it on to others. Again, and he said in his first letter to the Corinthians, I've handed on to you as of first importance what I myself received. He didn't keep it for himself. Pope Francis said in one of his homilies, how did St. Paul preserve the faith? Not in a safe. He didn't hide it underground like the lazy servant who buried the talent. He kept the faith because he didn't limit himself to defending it, but he proclaimed it. He spread it and brought it to the farthest reaches of the world. He preserved the faith because just as he received it, he passed it on, throwing himself into the peripheries without hiding behind bunkers. Here, he said, we can ask ourselves, how do we in the family keep our faith? Do we keep it for ourselves and our family, like a private possession, like a bank account? Or do we know how to share it with witness, with welcoming, and with openness to others? Again, we keep the faith by spreading it. St. Paul also says in the second reading today that he was rescued from the lion's mouth and from every evil threat.